Hey guys, before we start this episode, I wanted to talk to you about Type 1 Lifting. So Type 1 Lifting is a clothing line that proceeds of the shirts and tanks and everything else goes to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. So this all came about with me and seeing a 5-year-old girl in the emergency department that had new onset of diabetes. So just take a look at the website. It's www.type1lifting.com. So just check it out. If you don't buy anything, that's perfectly fine. I would just like for you just to take a look and just see what we have. So like I said before, www.type1lifting.com. And guys, I hope you enjoy the show. Hey guys, we have a new sponsor for the Type 1 Lifting podcast. The company's called Liberté Lifestyle. So Liberté is a French word meaning freedom, and the company was founded on the desire to have freedom to choose what we want to do with our lives. I actually had the owner, Nicole, on my podcast on episode 28, so if you want to go back and listen to her, she talks about how she started the company and what she wants to do in the future with the company, which is pretty cool. So they actually have knee sleeves, wrist wraps, shirts, shorts. Love the knee sleeves. I have the ice cream knee sleeves, and I love them so much. The neoprene's still good. The seams haven't split compared to other knee sleeves that I've had in the past, and I'm planning to keep these for a very, very long time. So Nicole actually gave me a promo code for you guys too. So it's all capital letters, TYPE, and the number 1. So it's Type 1. So go to libertelifestyle.com, check out what they have in the store, use the promo code Type 1, and save some coin. Now let's go to the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. Athlete, Cody Mooney, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time for talking to me. But usually the first question I usually ask all the CrossFit athletes, like, how did you get involved? How did you get started with CrossFit?
Oh goodness, I was about a freshman in high school, and someone that I knew was doing it, and I'd kind of go and I'd see him doing it once in a while, and he was competing at regionals at that time, and I was into every sport you could ever think of, so I had no time on my hands, and I just kept seeing him work out this way, and I was like, man, what a different way to work out. And I was like, every time I saw it happening, I was so drawn to it that one day I asked him, I was like, yo, can I come over like once a week, and maybe I can do it on like, once a week between sports, after practice. So I started doing that, and I fell in love quickly. And once a week turned into three turned into 5. And then all of a sudden he opened up a gym in my local town, and I was coaching after I'd go to high school, play my sport, and then go coach the night classes and work out at the gym after and go home and do it again. So I was pretty young when I found it. This was probably 2012, 2011 when I started dabbling a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of fell into it, but it was a quick one for me. I mean, it had everything I liked. It was just, I was all about that life.
Yeah. So do you remember your first workout?
Yeah, actually I do. It was, I think we all know Calsu. Yeah. So it's 100 thrusters per time, and every minute on the minute you do 5 bar facing burpees. And it was an empty barbell. It was 45 pounds, and it destroyed me. I don't even think I finished it. And then I remember my second one was a 2K row. So it was all like, that was back in the day though, where CrossFit was so like, it was a lot different. You do like Fran, you just go out, you do Fran 4 days a week or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of, it was those days. So yeah, that was definitely my first workout. I remember it. I remember exactly how I felt after. It was one of those ones where like, you're like, I'm never doing this again. Then immediately you're like, I'm addicted to this.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm the same way too. I started doing like the 300 workout when the 300 movie came out, and then I got involved in CrossFit like that way. So it was just like trying to get as fast as that workout fast as possible, and then just do other things too. So
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I mean, CrossFit has a weird way of drawing you in that. In that kind of like, it's a suffering, but then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've never felt so alive. I want to do that again.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So how did you team up with the Misfit crew?
So I teamed up with the Misfit crew back when they were just starting. So I actually went to school in Portland, Maine. I'm born and raised in Maine.
Okay.
And Portland is where Misfit is. So I was actually going to college, and they were the closest gym to me. So I started going there, and there's a couple other dudes that were competing that year a little bit, and we're all kind of like working out together. And there's a group of 5 of us from the gym. This is back when they took like 62 to regionals. When we were in Canton. We were at the Reebok headquarters, 2014, and we all 5 qualified. So they're like, hey, we're going to start. And like, I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a training program. Like, I was kind of doing class plus a little bit extra. We'd work out. So he's like, hey, we're going to start a blog. Would you like to follow it and like be one of our athletes? I was like, I'd love to. Like, and so it really started super organic with those guys. And that's why I stuck with it. And I still follow it, and I still go up there. I'm going up there Saturday to work out with them. And
Nice.
Because it started with a friendship. And it was like the greatest way to start that for me. It was such a good, solid foundation. And from there, it just kind of grew. And Drew became my coach. And I mean, you've spoken to Drew. You said you had him on the podcast. And I mean, he is like class A, world class. I mean, I would vouch anything for that man. Like, he is just a great friend, a great person, and he cares. And that's what was the biggest thing to me. Like, it was someone that if I didn't have the best workout, I didn't need to be, kind of like, kind of shamed a little bit and just being like, oh, you expect to do better. He never did any of that to me. And that's just we kind of grew together. And I mean, it was super organic. We're super close still. It was a really cool way to actually find a coach.
Yeah, Drew's awesome. After the podcast I did with him, like, we literally talked for like an hour after, just like talking about like, Misfit and other programs, and just talking about like life in general, and see like such a cool guy. So awesome.
Such a cool guy. Yeah.
So typically you see like CrossFit athletes kind of like jumping from one program to the other. I know you said it earlier that like you stuck with them because it was more like, as a friendship wise. Have you ever like thought about dabbling to go to someplace else, or was it just like Misfit or bust?
No, for me it was never a question. I mean, and it wasn't that it wasn't that like I was scared to end a friendship or something like that. Like, obviously loyalty for me is a big thing, but it was also, I was getting everything I wanted. And I knew it was behind the product. And for me, that's the biggest thing. I'm a guy that will find the local farm to find all the other stuff and whatnot. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you're frozen on the screen, so I was just checking. So I'm the guy that like goes down the street to find the local farm just because I know the product behind it. And that was me when it came to Misfit. Like, I knew everything that was happening behind the scenes. I knew how much work was getting put into it day in and day out, and I knew how much they cared. So it was never a question of if I was going to go somewhere else, because I had a really good line of open communication. No one knew me better as an athlete, and it was the right fit.
Very cool. So just like Jordan Cook in 2014 and 2015, you had like a big jump from the open to like even getting better like the year like in 2015. So what was the change that caused that?
I think for me, the change, I was young. I was really young when it came to 2014. It was my first ever regional. I had a pretty good regional. I think I finished like, I don't know, 11th, 12th, something like that. I had one really bad event where I was doing very well in a rope climb event. And then, kind of, we all know once a legless rope climb goes, it goes. Mm-hmm. And that kind of set me back. So it really didn't end up the score being, I wanted to be kind of more closer to top 5 or so. And then the next year coming, I had a good finish that year. Obviously didn't break out as I wanted to in the last event from strength, the clean ladder. And that was just the biggest thing for me. And it was just the journey of being strong. I always had the ability to kind of grind it out in a workout. And I was always the kid where if you asked me if I wanted to go back squat, if I wanted to go crush myself in a Metcon, I was picking the Metcon every single time. Yeah. I was not a fan of the back squat. I was never a fan of like the lifting sessions. Drew would like make me do them. He's like, you got to do this. I'm like, I know. So I think for me, and also it was just knowing myself as an athlete, like with everything, I think we can all look back. I know it's very cliche to say when in that moment, obviously when I fell from like 5th to whatever, 3rd to 8th, whatever it was, 2015, and missed the spot. It was a very big learning curve for me. And that's what kind of grew me as an athlete. And I think it was just actually kind of getting a little bit older and being okay with what kind of, throws my way. And that, cause that's so much of CrossFit. One workout is so good. And then the next minute, all of a sudden, something happens and it's tough, one no rep here, one no rep there. So I was thinking it was just learning, it's experience, stuff like that.
Very cool. So I know Misfit has some like amazing athletes like Jordan and like, you know, I know you trained with Alec for a little while in New York when you were at
Hmm.
when you were over there. So does that help you improve like your CrossFit ability, you think?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm a big believer. I have a buddy that always says, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." And I kind of like thought the same with CrossFit. So I was never, and that's another reason why it reverts back to Misfit, is that Drew was always cool with me. Drew understood the power of putting yourself in a situation and like rising to their level. You sit yourself just like when business people say, you sit yourself in a room with, high level thinkers, you're going to rise to their level. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with CrossFit. And I was very fortunate to find Alec and become very close friends with Alec. And I was down there at Krypton training with him and Ben and Adam Klink and Dane and all those guys for many, many years. And it was, again, such a good growing step for me in my career that I needed. And it helped me take the next steps and stuff. And yeah, I mean, when I talk about, I feel the most blessed person on the earth when I talk about training partners, because it come from Jordan and, Sherb and Hunter and everyone that was up at Misfit. And then I went here and I was down at Krypton. It was such a good thing for me. And yeah, definitely. I mean, that is part of the little success I did have within the sport and whatnot was definitely attributed to who I was able to surround myself by.
Very cool. So at Krypton, were they mainly helping you out with the strength portion, or what were they doing?
When we went down to Krypton, we arrived at the gym at like 10 a.m. and whatever Ben wrote on the board, we just go for it. And a lot of the time, like, yeah, you bet your bottom dollar we're doing a lot of strength for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was heavy. There was a lot of gymnastics, and again, this was back in the day of 14, 15, where we would be doing 5, 6 events. It would go from morning session to have lunch, the afternoon session to a strength session. And then Ben would be like, "All right, I'm headed back to my house and have some food and we'll meet you in the garage after." I'd be like, "Okay." And we suit up for another session. It was those days where you did a lot of working out. But for sure, when I went down there, like, those boys were strong.
Yeah.
And there was a reason for it, because they lifted heavy often.
Yeah. I remember, well, I mean, obviously Adam Klink with the 500-pound back squat, and then Ben Smith did that
Mm-hmm.
too. And it's like
Uh-huh.
insane to think, like, those guys, and especially with the frame that they have, that they can actually
Oh,
do
it's
that.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being in person. There's a video of Alec cleaning 400 pounds. And I was there in person. I was just off to the side. And I think he weighed like, I don't know, maybe like a $180 at the time,
Jeez.
something like that.
Yeah.
And he was just so freaking strong. It was crazy. Yeah. It was always eye-opening to go down there and see. It was so much fun. The atmosphere, the energy. It was just such a good place to be. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So the first time you made it to the games, obviously it's obviously a very awesome experience for you. So what was it like being an individual at the games?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was something that I don't think if I ever got to experience, I would have never been able to like appreciate how much it means to get there, and like appreciate how much work athletes put in to get there, stuff like that. For me, it was like everything I could imagine. I came off of 2015. That thing happened at Regionals. 2016, I was like 22nd overall in the Open, didn't qualify, went on a team, which was a great experience. And then 2017 came back and whatnot and qualified. And it was just like, it was great. I remember starting off, the first event was a run, swim, run. Dave Castro brought us out in the rain. It was pouring out, and he made us sit there for like 10 minutes, and we all took off. And I spent a lot of that year training with Ben and Alec and everyone getting ready for the games and whatnot. It was just like, so, because Alec and I mean, we've been best friends now for a while. So to experience that with him, because it was also his first time individually at the games, like it was such a good experience, and it was so much fun. And but it was also a little bit tougher one for me. I had a torn labrum that year that not a lot of people knew about. That definitely was a challenging 3 months leading up to the games to train around and whatnot, but I would trade it for the world. That experience was like no other.
Yeah. So the one event that sticks out to me is the snatch, the one
Yeah,
rep max snatch,
gosh.
where you actually missed the last lift, but you actually made it to you saved it like the last second, and like
So I did with both of them.
oh yeah, that's right.
We had two lifts, and both times you had 15 seconds to lift. You can lift as many times as you want, and both times I failed both snatches the first one. Oh yeah. Oh, if it wasn't for the crowd, I wouldn't have. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
It was funny because
I was in the.
yeah, it was
No,
funny
keep
because like
going.
watching the next person snatch, and then you hear the crowd just go absolutely bananas because they see you like actually getting it up there. That was like so
Yeah.
cool.
Because as long as the bar left the ground before your time ticked, I could still be in the bottom trying to get this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like one of the by far worst movements for my shoulder. So I remember in the warm up area for that, I hit 95 pounds, and I was talking to Drew because Drew knew. I mean, I haven't snatched then for 3 months. I was like, I can't, And Drew's like, "What are you gonna hit? Or are we gonna open it?" And I said 267, and he's like, "Well, you just snatched 95." I'm like, "I'm going for it." I'm like, "I'm here to go for it." So it was purely on adrenaline, purely on the crowd. It was definitely an experience for sure. Both lifts were made on the second attempt, but yeah, that moment being in the Coliseum first time, getting to lift in front of that many people. I mean, those are the moments that like when you're, middle of the winter rowing in your freaking garage, wondering why. It's stuff like that where you're like, I miss it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
I believe the next year after that you went team. So what was that decision? Why'd you guys choose to become a team?
So 2018, I was on demo team, and then
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
2019, I mean, they're all kind of blending together now. So then the following year, that's when I went team. You know what? Going team was kind of something where I think Alec and I always wanted to do it. So leading up to the games and all that stuff, there was multiple years of like team series that we did together and all this other stuff we did together. And we moved to New York City. We both became roommates. And we started doing a lot of like, this is where like a lot of the sanctionals were coming up and stuff like that. So you had a lot more opportunities to compete throughout the year. And, you always don't want to compete individually. So we started competing a little bit in the team. We're like, damn, this is really fun. Like maybe we should actually give it a shot when you're at the games. And I was totally down for it. I always love being, playing team sports. I've always loved being a little part of that group. And I think it's something so special that like, I think everyone wants to experience it at once or twice. And so we're like, all right, let's give it a shot. And we kind of did that. We found some of the people. We found Jess, we found Camille. And we just had such a good year. It was just so much fun. It made the long, brutal days of, realizing you have 5 pieces to do. It made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it was a cool experience because not only did it make those days easier, I became a lot fitter in that time than, like I think some people sometimes you think when you go team, you're kind of hanging up the cleats a little bit, and it wasn't that at all. And I think that Alec could vouch for me as well, because I think that, he also grew as an athlete, and we both grew as an athlete in that time, and we both became fitter. We had a great time doing it. We traveled the world, and I think we both came out at the end of the day, and, we sat second on the podium at the games, and it was just like, wow, like what an experience that we just were able to have for a year. And we kind of like realized we did it together, and that was like something that, we both cherish. So,
Yeah. So how did you get Camille and Jess on your team? I mean, obviously, Camille is, really up there when it comes to like CrossFit athletes. And so how did you get like to call her down and get in?
I think Camille kind of knew Alec a little bit just from being like a part of the Smith family and the Krypton crew or whatnot. And obviously I knew Camille a little bit through competing, but I didn't know her as well before we were on the team. I knew of her track record and how fit she was. And I knew Jess a little bit better just from, doing a couple other comps and whatnot. And we kind of reached out to Camille, just putting out the idea there. We got wind that she was maybe thinking of like possibly going team or something like this. And which is really cool because she was I think her and Jamie Green were the only 2 women to sit on the individual podium and the team podium. So she was pretty pumped to have that experience as well. Another notch on her belt, which is a very, very impressive belt. So when we did that, and You know, because I mean, a team is like building a friend. It's building a little like friends group. You know what I mean? You can't force a team together. You need to be like, okay, we can compete together. We understand each other. We know, because you're literally going to get one of the hardest tests that you're ever going to go through, and you're going to have to experience it together. And you can only go, and you're only as good as your weakest link. You know what I mean? And there'll be workouts where everyone on your team is going to get exposed. It's just how it works. I mean, that's the glory of CrossFit. So we kind of like linked up, and we had a couple weekends. We only had two training weekends as a team before we went to the games. And then we also competed at Rogue once. So Rogue was kind of the first time where we never really competed on a team yet together. We didn't do that well. It was actually kind of a funny event. It was just different. It was kind of awkward. We weren't really ready together as a team, but like we knew that the core piece was there, like camaraderie, whatnot. We got along. So we had two other training weekends, and everything went well. And Camille was all for it, and we were all for having her on the team. We were super pumped. She wanted to be part, and we went for it.
Very cool. So how do you get like 3 top level individuals to kind of like not like make it become a team pretty much?
I think there's a true respect, I think, level for everyone there. And like I said, that CrossFit is going to expose us in every way.
Yeah.
I mean, you make me do a squat clean, you're going to expose me. Like, I think Alec knows, you make him do a GHD and a deadlift because of his back, it's possibly going to expose him. I mean, we all had our things where we knew, but we all knew, like, us as a team, like we could – the coolest part about a team is that sometimes you're able to take a little bit. Like when we would lift, obviously our girls would freaking just about outlift me. And it's like, wow, good thing our girls are very strong, because that helps. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that it was just having that respect level for everyone, and knowing that no matter what the workout was, like, we're going to give 100%. I mean, obviously there's a gear that you don't have to turn off when you're competing as a team, but you have to transition from, it's not how fast can I personally go, because there's no point in racing ahead of your team or doing something like this and then waiting for them to be on. It's like, how fast can we make our team go? Mm-hmm. And on some workouts, you can maybe carry an extra sandbag. You can maybe do this. You can lift a little bit more weight. You can do this. So it was just, we had a good understanding of all that stuff, and we were up for the challenge. And I think it was a challenge that none of us ever experienced. We've all experienced the individual challenge. We all wanted a different challenge. So we took it on as a challenge, and it was sure a fun one at that.
Very cool. So, I mean, obviously I have my favorite moments of you at the games, especially with the sprint event as team, which was pretty cool. And so do you have any like favorite moments of the games, like other than those 2 events I talked about earlier?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the sprint event was amazing. That was like something that we kind of knew that was coming. I knew Alec was like shot out of a cannon. I've seen it happen before. And I feel like it was one of those moments where I knew it was coming, but I'm like excited for everyone else to see him. Like, this boy can run, and I know he can run. Gosh, I mean, there were so many experiences at the games. I mean, I think that just like having a couple events where it really challenges the team with like the big bob. I love like the usage of that. I love us being really on that field. Most of the events that happen on that turf field were just so fun. The final event was such a cool event where it was the 30-30-30-30. Yeah. And then you couldn't like move ahead to your team win. The swim was such a big event. Like that was one as a team. We really didn't know how we were going to do. We knew we were all decent swimmers. And I think that one was really like, we overshot our expectations on that. So it was such a good event to finish. There's tons of highlights. I mean, that weekend was just, that week was just all full of highlights for me.
Yeah. When I watched the sprint event, I was like, you guys are like a little bit far behind. Then like Alex just came out and just like shot out. And I was like, oh my God. Like he just like blew by like 4 or 5 people just to become first place. And he's just like sitting there, like not even like taking a deep breath or anything like that.
No. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it happen before. It's funny. I'll never forget. We were doing sprints once. It was me, Alec, and Ben, and we were on like this hill somewhere in Virginia or wherever, and Alec made us look like we're standing still, and that's all I could think of in my head when he was about to run. I'm like, people are about to witness something that they don't know, and I know it. And it's exactly what happened, and it was just such a fun event to definitely do. And even funner to watch.
Very cool. Very cool. So you've kind of like stepped back a little bit, like not like I'm not saying retired, but like, quasi retired a little bit. So like
Yeah.
what have you been doing like after, being a CrossFit athlete?
Yeah. So I definitely stepped back some this year, a little bit last year, and then this year too. Just, I think we all know CrossFit is no hobby, what to say at the
Mm,
least. And if you want to compete in it, it has to be 100%. And that's just kind of the person I am too. And I gave CrossFit my 100% for many years, but I just wanted a couple years, I think, to grow as a person outside of being in a gym for 8 hours,
mm-hmm.
where I kind of wanted to grow. I was able to grow as a CrossFit athlete and experience those things, but there's some other stuff outside of life that I was never able to experience or had to say no to, because the gym was always like a big block in my brain where it's like, Cody, wherever you go, 8 hours of that day needs to kind of be spent around, your life kind of circulates around that, because if you're not, someone else is. And, like, as you can tell now, there's a lot of very, very good athletes out there.
Yeah.
But I was very blessed so I've always been an advocate for health and wellness from the day that, I started for me, competing was always a wonderful thing, but coaching was my love.
Mm-hmm.
I never stopped coaching when I was competing. Through all my years, I was always coaching at some sort of gym, and just because it felt like it was my way to get back. And I wanted people to experience what health and wellness has done for me, not only inside of a gym, but throughout my life. I want to be able to share that with other people and give them the best hour of their day. And, it really did kind of fill my bucket.
Mm-hmm.
So when I kind of was able to step back a little bit and kind of see what I wanted to do, I had someone that came up to me that was like, he owns a couple companies, one being a pretty big space in the CrossFit space. And he was just like, listen, I'm at this point, like, in the business world, and I'm very happy with that. But personally, I've gotten some health markers back, and, I'm kind of scared. And I've never been one to take one-on-one clients and stuff like that. But with this one, I knew that it was kind of he was able to help me grow in areas of life that I wanted to grow in. And I could also help him and show him how health and wellness is not only going to help you with the health markers, but it's also going to like kind of trickle out into your life and be able to show you how to, handle certain scenarios and handle feelings and all these other things, as it has done for me. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And it's been amazing. We've been kind of working a year together. I feel like I have grown as a person, luckily, now quite a bit. And a lot of that is, I contribute that to him and his mentorship. And to say the least, we kind of just did a inside tracker the other day, and all his markers were like spot on. Nice. And he's feeling really good. And I'm able to see him grow as a person too, which is very fulfilling. So that's where I'm at now. And it's been true. I mean, I still train twice a day. It's in my blood. I'm not saying I'm done forever. You know what I mean? I'm 26. But definitely it was just a much needed mental space for me too. I needed a little step back from being able to kind of do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to see where I could push myself, not just physically, but mentally, and, be able to kind of just spread out to different avenues and have the flexibility to do that.
Very cool. So obviously, being from Maine, you moved to New York. So do you think that was a really like big growing experience to be like in a big city compared to, because I'm from Massachusetts originally, and so
what
like
part?
I used to go to New York all the time, and like I would be petrified going into Manhattan. I was like, I'll stay on Long Island or like Queens or whatnot, but just like I'm good with Manhattan. So what was that? What did that help you grow?
Yeah. Like you wouldn't believe. It was an experience of a lifetime. And hopefully, honestly, I am back in Maine right now. And believe me, I am a true Mainer. I love Maine. I love New England. I love Maine. I love seasons. I love everything about it. But I grew up in the woods. And so for me, and when you grow up in the woods, we usually grow up where I'm from, you kind of stay where I'm from. And that's just kind of how it works. So that was very different when I was going to New York. And Alec, I can really thank Alec for this. If you're listening, Alec, thank you. Love you, buddy. Because he really pushed us to go to New York. Alec is a very, let's just freaking do it. And I was like, dude, I really don't know. But I knew someone down there, Kenny Santucci. Yep. He was like, yo, you can move down here with a job. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, this is a once in a lifetime. And I went down there. We found Alec and I met up for one weekend. Before we went down there, we got an Airbnb for one night, and we just saw as many apartments as we could in 2 days. We found one in the Upper West, right next to Central Park. We could kind of run and stuff. It was awesome. And the amount of growing I did as a person in that city, and the eye-opening things that I saw, I was eye-open to culture and diversity, and it was amazing. And it was the greatest experience I could ever have done for myself. Mm-hmm. And I recommend that to anyone to be able to. It was such a scary experience in the beginning, but it was one that when I was down there, I'm like, gosh, I'm so happy that I made this jump instead of, staying in my comfort zone where I was super comfortable. I had everything I needed. And it was just like, and all of a sudden I came this like love for the city. I came this love to be able to step outside my door and do kind of anything. And it was a really, really cool experience. I hope to be back there eventually one day, or, have some ties there, because I really do love the city. I love that city a lot. It did have its days where it was overwhelming. It made some very simple things very hard. Like, I don't know, you forget something at home. It's not like, oh, let me turn on the car. It's like, let me get back on the subway, go this way, go that way. You know what I mean? Yep. But once you get the hang of it, I mean, it's a beautiful city. I loved it. And the amount of people I met, and I mean, talk about community. I mean, this is my favorite thing about CrossFit, is that you can go anywhere in the world, step into a gym, and it's like, I've already met friends. Yeah. I mean, they're the most welcoming, nice people. You already have something in common. And I think that's what made my transition to New York really easy, because I moved down there just knowing Alec. Mm-hmm. And I knew Kenny a little bit, but I had a job, and within, I started on like a Thursday, and that weekend I was already getting invited to go, like, hey, we're having a barbecue, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like, because, there was like-minded people that were just like really door open. And it was such a good experience to be able to have. And one that I recommend, if you ever have the chance, you take it and run, because it was definitely something that I will hold on to forever.
Yeah, that was kind of like me when I first went into Manhattan, just like right into Times Square, just like looking at all the lights and just being like in awe of like, this is amazing, unreal.
Dude, I coached. One of my favorite memories is I used to coach the 5:30. So I was getting up early, and some days it was a 4:15 subway. Mm-hmm. But on the nice mornings, like in the summer, where it was like nicer out, I would just get the city bike, and I'd be going right down Broadway at like 4:45, not many cars or anything. And I'm just like looking around like, wow, you're passing Macy's, I'm like, this is crazy. This is such a crazy life. Yeah, definitely. It's quite the city for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing, because I've talked to people that, like, especially in Atlanta, they don't leave Atlanta, and I'm like, you gotta venture out and explore. Like, that's what life's all about.
Yeah, that is what life's all about. But for a lot of people, myself included, I mean, and I think that's part of this pandemic that we're going through. Change is very scary. Yeah, it scares a lot of people. Change is, but without change, it's what's also scary me is being stagnant and going throughout my days and stuff like that. So, it's like, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I need to choose which one it's going to be. And I'm very thankful that I had Alec to give me a little push out the door on that one, to be like, let's go be uncomfortable in New York City. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. So do you typically try to make yourself uncomfortable at all? Like,
I'm someone that, used to, no. 4 years ago, no. I did things that were comfortable. I stayed in my hometown. I wouldn't venture out. I wouldn't like really try to meet people. I mean, back in the day, I never thought I would ever go as many places as I got to experience the things I did, or have the friends, many places and whatnot. But CrossFit CrossFit kind of started opening up doors for me, where it was like, all right, Cody, you're either going to take this, or you're going to, almost kind of be left behind a little bit. And some of these opportunities are like once in a lifetime that you start doing that. So yeah, I definitely say now I'm that person that, you know, like I'll go to an event where I don't know anyone and, you know, try to, you know, start a conversation, or I'll be the person to be like, you know, really, this is an opportunity that I can't say no to now. Like, you know, and yeah, I'd probably say I try to make myself that as much as I can now, because I think that the greatest thing, that one thing that I did learn in New York City is that there's a lot of freaking really cool people out there.
Yep.
And, you know, and it's, I think it's a true blessing when you get to meet one of them and you're just like, wow, that, you know, that person was freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like when you're very comfortable and you only know what you grew up with and you keep it that way, you're missing out on a lot. And I got to experience that. And, you know, now I know, and I definitely try to preach that as much as I can, where like, you know, get yourself to be a little uncomfortable once in a while, because it's good. But I mean, what's the first thing it taught me? That was CrossFit. You got to live to be uncomfortable in those workouts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
That was like, so that's when I talk about how CrossFit trickles over to other things. It's, you know, staples like that kind of just get embedded into you. You're like, yeah, that's, you know, that's good stuff. And that's what, for me, that's what CrossFit has taught me throughout the years.
Very cool. Very cool. So
yeah.
I've heard you a bunch of times on the Misfit Athletics podcast, and, you know, I always love hearing your views of, like, you know, life or just like fitness or just like working out. So have you ever thought about doing a podcast or anything like that?
You know, I have, to be honest with you. I've actually thought about it, looked it up multiple times, asked Ted for equipment, like equipment list of like what I would need, stuff like that. Yeah, Teddy sent me it all. And I was just like, you know, I really have, because the thing about it is that I think some people, when you think of CrossFit and you think of like, you know, I think people experience fitness in all these different ways. And for me, it was always a way of, I knew it was building a foundation for my life. And it was building almost like a path of the way that I like to live. And people started to gravitate towards the way I like to live. And they thought that it was just for, you know, like, you work out because you want to look good naked. Well, you know, who doesn't work out because they want to look good naked? That is the fact. Okay. But I also was working out because it was my therapy. It taught me how to, you know, deal with emotions. It made me a better person with having communication, or better communication with people. It taught me how to listen better. It made me not, you know, so quick to be tempered. It did a lot for me outside of just, you know, the physique that I became very attracted to. And I didn't want to lose. And not only did I not want to lose it, I wanted other people to experience, well, like, you know, this is what's helped me, and I want you to experience it as well. So yeah, fitness for me was always above and beyond the fact of just like, I work out so I can look good. It was always more or less, I work out because I want to be able to be a good person, and I want to be able to, you know, like, help others. And by that, I need to be able to put myself first. And for me, my fitness and giving myself an hour, 2 hours a day is big for me. And I know that. So it's something that I continue to do and I continue to preach about.
Yeah, that's the same with me. Like, so if I miss a day, I get a little disappointed. But I mean, obviously, like, I have a wife and kids. So like, my workout's at like 5 o'clock in the morning to like,
oh, good for you.
6. I wake up at 4:20, and I'm like, if I don't work out this time, I won't be able to work out, especially at night.
Wow.
So yeah,
wow.
So it's
good
just,
for you.
I do all the heavy lifting and all that stuff like super early in the morning, and I'm like, everyone's like, how do you do that? And
I should be interviewing you.
Well, I mean,
yeah, technically,
maybe another time
here we are.
So, but yeah, it's like, how do you do this? I'm like, because I have no choice. I mean, because like, if I really want to work out and like feel better throughout the day, I have to do it at this time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, and that's the stuff that I always try to preach with people. It's, if I don't work out, I mean, I've gotten better now where I can give myself a day and I'm okay and whatnot. But if I go long stretch of working out, like, I start to lose a piece of me, you know, like, I think as humans, we need to feel self-worth to be able to kind of treat others with love. And that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And for me, working out was that self-worth. It was me giving myself a little bit of time to work out, to feel good. So that way I could kind of like, there's a bucket that you have to fill to be able to give out some, you know, it's kind of the oxygen mask theory. And for me, the working out was that, and then it allowed me to be, like I said, like be more patient, be a better listener, be able to handle my emotions. It was everything for me. So I completely agree with you, and I completely understand of, you know, and I think it's freaking awesome that you wake up at 4:20 to do that stuff. That's killer. I mean, a lot of people, I wish a lot of people would do the same, because it's really cool, because I'm sure your kids are going to grow up and they're going to say, like, you see my dad doing that, and it's going to kind of be embedded in them, and they're going to be able to experience the same, hopefully. And it's going to be something that, like, I think is a really good model for a lot of people. I think this whole like world of putting health and wellness first, because I'm a strong believer, like, health is wealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
If we don't have health, we have nothing. Yeah. And it needs to be, and like, that needs to be preached to, like, our younger kids, and that needs to be preached to everyone. I think now it couldn't be a better time. So, I mean, good for you. Yeah, kudos to you. That's freaking awesome.
I have my, like, if I work on the basement sometimes too, because I have like a whole barbell set.
Is that a pull-up bar right there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I saw the thing. Yeah.
So I don't train in the morning down here because I don't want to wake up my family, but like I'll train in the weekends here, and I have like I used to play lacrosse like back in college.
Yep.
And so I have like a long stick, so my son would do the Olympic lifting or like back squatting with the lacrosse stick while I'm doing it. So
good.
And also, like, the reason why I work out too is just obviously for me, but I also want to show, like, people, like, listen, diabetics can do amazing things. And I'm lifting these crazy weights, like, especially me being 6'6" too, so it doesn't really help out. But just showing people, like, even though I have this crappy disease, doesn't stop me from doing anything I don't want to do.
So, quote me or tell me if I'm wrong, but type 1, you cannot create insulin.
Correct.
Okay, and it's not genetic.
Well,
or can it be?
It can be genetic, but mine is not, because I have like no one in my family.
Yours is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, so think of it as as type 1, like your pancreas retires for good, and so like typically what happens is that, like, if you're sick or something like that, your white blood cells will attack your pancreas, because they think that's like the main cause of where the infection is. And then compared to type 2 is where they eat like a lot of food, like a lot of like bad food, and their pancreas can't produce enough insulin for them to, maintain it. So.
So, what do you for, if you don't mind me asking, I'm just out of my curiosity, like, so insulin shots. So what is your day like? Run me through like that kind of.
So I typically
that.
The night before, I don't eat after like 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And so
is that because of the type 1, or do you do intermittent fasting?
No, it's like a quasi intermittent fasting. Like, I don't eat for like 12 hours.
Okay.
And so and so what I do is that typically if I eat after 7, sometimes like the blood sugars don't kick in because my food isn't digested all the way. So I kind of do it after 7. So around like 9:30, 10 o'clock, I can see what my blood sugars are and then correct it. And then the next morning, don't eat, just take pre-workout, go work out, and then check my blood sugar, see if it's elevated. And typically during CrossFit workouts, it's elevated because like the hormone phase, like the fight or flight stuff. And then I'll kind of correct it a little bit, eat breakfast, and then pretty much like check my blood sugar at least like 5 or 6 times a day by like pricking my finger and just seeing what my blood sugar's at, and just try to like take my insulin before like 10 minutes before I eat. So
because you're constantly trying to regulate that.
And it doesn't help that like sometimes I'm sick or something like that. My blood sugar will spike up, or like I said before, CrossFit workouts, or even like going out to eat dinner, or like I need to have like something regular. Like I eat the same thing almost every day, pretty much. And so because I know what type of insulin how much insulin I need just to have a normal blood sugar. But if I go on a trip or eat something different at a restaurant, like it's like kind of shooting in the dark. I just don't know like how many units I need. Sometimes I go over, or it's just it's a whole numbers game, like 24/7.
You said you were 35 when you found out you had when you were diagnosed. How'd you know?
So pre-employment screening at my hospital. So when I worked at CHOA, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, they have a thing called Strong for Life. And so what happens is they check your blood sugar ranges and everything. and the lady's like, that's weird. And I'm like, what? And they say your blood sugar is like 390, and a normal blood sugar is like
Wow.
80 to 120. And like, she weighed me probably like 5 minutes before that, and I dropped like 20 pounds from the last time I weighed myself. And
Wow.
I thought I was like, oh, I'm like, I was a month at my parents' house because I didn't have a job yet down here.
Yeah.
So up in Massachusetts, so I was like working out like 24/7 pretty much if I wasn't working. And I thought
Yeah.
it was like me because I'm working hard. But then she showed my blood sugar, and she's like, "That's weird. Like, what did you have for breakfast?" And I'm like, "Yep, just two bowls of cereal. That's it." And she's like, "You feel fine right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I feel perfectly normal." And so then she's like, "Do a 12-hour fast, check your blood sugar," and it was like 271 when I did the 12-hour fast. And so I emailed her. Yeah,
Jeez.
so I emailed her and I was like, "Hey, I have this number," and she's like, "You need to go to an endocrinologist like now." And so
Wow.
I went to an endocrinologist, and I didn't have insurance yet. So I my wife's like, "Do you really need to go right now?" And so technically my A1C was 11.5
Mm.
when I got diagnosed, and so they're saying that like if I kept this up for however long I had it, like I could have had a stroke or something like that.
Jeez, crow.
So
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
How long you been married?
Uh 7 years, 8 years, 8 years. Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah.
That's awesome.
We have
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
five and a
So
two
you
year
said you
old.
have one kid?
No, two. I
A
have a
five?
five and a 2 year old.
Oh, wow. What fun ages.
Oh, they're awesome. They love each other
That's
so much.
amazing.
It's amazing.
Good for you. That's awesome. That's so cool.
So,
So
do you
cool.
have anybody in your life at all, or?
Yeah, so recently I have someone new in my life. She's wonderful. I met her actually. She actually lives in London.
Oh, cool.
I spent a little time over there, and we kind of met. We're over there, and then long distance is not easy whatsoever.
Yeah,
Talk about fitness, therapy, helping with my life. Definitely a lot of working out. But no, we kind of took it on an approach where it was more or less like, let's, in the beginning, let's just kind of keep in contact and see how this goes. And then I'm a true believer when you kind of, you meet someone that you feel that strong about and you can connect on that, really real level. It's someone that's very special, and that's exactly what she is. So we're like, let's try to make this work. It's never going to be easy, but not too many things that are good come easy. So
yeah,
she's great. Hopefully get her over to the States soon, whatnot. But yeah. So I'm doing that, which has been great.
yeah. I mean, my thing is like when I met my wife, was like when I knew like a month in, I was like, all right, I already love you. So I already dropped the
Yeah.
L bomb. I was like, I love you. She's like, you're just drunk because it's your 30th birthday, and I'm like, no, I'm not. No, it's not. No.
I love that. That's so good because I'm such a guy that I love to just like, you know, I'm not someone that beats around the bush.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's get to a real conversation. Let's understand stuff. So yes, I kudos to you. That's cool. I'm totally about that as well.
Yeah, the best part of it, like the next day, I was like so hungover, and she's like, "Do you remember what do you remember what you said?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know I know what I said." I'm like,
Yep.
Trust me, I'm not gonna forget that." So,
That's amazing. Good for you.
yeah,
Hey, 7 years later.
yeah. Well, I mean, we no, well,
Yeah.
we've been together for 2 years and married for actually no 8 years, so it's like almost like 10
Oh,
years
okay.
together. So,
Oh, awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
the
Very cool.
the 2 year
Nice.
mark that was like a little scary. Like the 2 year mark, she's like, "All right, what are we doing?" And so
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, "Okay, all right, I might need to do something." So,
Yeah, yeah. Good for you. Yeah, that's like I have a lot of friends right now that are getting married. It's kind of becoming that part of my life.
yeah.
Like everyone says, you start like the weddings start rolling in, and we definitely have some weddings rolling in, so it's cool.
Yeah, I've always noticed from like the 25 to like 35 range is you're like that's the range where
Yeah,
like there's weddings all over the place, and you're like, oh, there's another one. So
yeah. My fridge is full of the wedding things. That's great, man. I love that stuff. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
very cool. So I
Cool.
have a couple quick questions. We're getting close to
Of
the end.
course.
I know, I already think I know what your answer is for this one. So,
All right.
what do you think the best machine is for endurance wise? The
Hmm.
biker, the rower, or the assault bike?
I mean, are we talking like long endurance? Are you talking like learning how to burn it down and flush lactic acid,
Oh,
stuff like
that's a good
that?
question. I like. How about in the middle?
in the middle. I mean, I think obviously the assault bike is going to teach you about everything you need to know about, entering the pain cave, flushing lactic acid, learning how to get back onto it, learning your limits. I use that a lot. I also do love the biker. I love to go longer pieces on that. But I'd probably say the assault bike teaches you probably the best lessons.
Okay.
Some in CrossFit. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had so many friggin' moments on that bike. I can't even explain it. Like that's been, we've had some good times for sure.
Well, so I remember watching a Misfit video, and they were programming a workout for you for the rower, and they're like, "We're not going to give you the rower because you're so good at it."
Oh yeah.
So that was my pick.
Yeah, no, I do. I love the rower. I think it's a great machine. I love to row. Like I said, my second ever workout, what we were talking about, was a 2K.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew how to row. Like, it was just one thing. Like, I could barely squat a bar, but like rowing was just something that I was like, all right, I pull it. Like, what's a good number? And I'm just going to pull as much as I can. So yeah, I love to row. I think it's one of the greatest machines, especially when you learn how to row properly. You use your glutes, your hamstrings. It becomes definitely fun for sure.
Yeah. So in my basement, I have a 10-year-old rower.
Is it concept too?
Yes, it's a concept too. I'll show it to you after. It's made out of, it's like just straight metal and wood, and like the foot pedals are wood, not the plastic, so it doesn't.
I think in my head I can picture what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out.
And there's two prongs, and like for where the rower is, like to attach when you pull. So there's a very small fan, there's a fan on there, but like the blade covers, there's very small blade covers.
Oh, that's good. So. That's so good. Yeah, that's so good.
If you want to get really good at rowing, you got to try that sucker. So
yeah, I know, right? That thing will teach you. That thing has some miles on it.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was funny. The guy I bought it off of, he says he only had 10 hours of use.
Wow.
And so
it must have just sat somewhere.
Yeah, it was like
for
in
years.
Some rowing. It was in a rowing club for a while. Then he
then
he took it and he barely used it. And I was just talking about like building my home gym, and he's like, "I'll give it to you for $100," and I'm like, "Deal."
Oh, can't beat that. No. Yeah, no, you cannot beat that. Gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a gem.
Yeah, it's
a gem of fun.
Oh, I love that thing. So, so do you have like any goals that you want to hit by the end of the year at all, or
fitness goals?
Well, fitness goals or like personal or business wise.
Personal, I'm a big believer of like always trying to evolve and always trying to grow and stuff like that. I mean, personal goals, I definitely have quite a few. I'd say fitness wise. So obviously I've done all the stuff. I did not sign up this year for whatnot. I've done all the workouts. It was fun. It was good. Fitness wise, I would just want to stay, I think I'm actually still getting fitter, believe it or not. I don't train as much now. I've trained just a little bit differently. I don't kind of bang myself into the wall 12 times a day with Metcons. Yeah. I do Metcons, longer pieces, a little bit of functional bodybuilding. So I think that fitness wise is maintain health, I think, is the biggest. My body feels better now than it ever has. And that's a huge plus for me. And still become fitter. That's something that I take pride in. I like to be a person where any kind of challenge rolls my way. I don't think twice. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Let's do this. You know what I mean? I kind of like that. I like to, people are like, why do you stay fit? I'm like, it's because if I want to go hike a mountain one day, or if I have to move into the 5th floor and bring all this stuff up there, like I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to be capable to do that stuff. So that's my goal, is to stay healthy, to stay fit. And then, the personal, it's just, I think that COVID I'm someone that like really loves human interaction. I love to kind of, be around people. That's why I love coaching and stuff like that. So I think my next, once it's all safe and everything, we can kind of get back to, being able to be around that, is to, find that niche again. That makes me happy to get involved with the community and be able to, try to do my part for sure.
Yeah. Like a podcast.
Yeah. Like a podcast. Oh, it's so funny you say that, because it's really freaking been on my mind.
Dude, we'll talk after, like after the recording. Dude, it's really easy. It's really not that hard. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised. And so,
Mm.
do you have like a favorite book you like to read at all, or?
Yeah, I do. I've read quite a few. So I do a lot of self-help books. I read one that it's called it's right over here. I put it somewhere. It's about the Enneagram. You know what the Enneagram is. So
No,
there's
I
like
don't
they
remember.
break. Oh, dude, it's great. It's goodness. I wish I could find it. I think it might be right here, so I can actually read the title too. Yep. It's called The Road Back to You. So the Enneagram is like they pretty much classify people. I believe it's into like 8 different types and whatnot. And you kind of read about how each person processes things and, why some people do things and how you interact. But also there's a test that you can take. You get a number. And I remember like reading my number. I'm like, holy shit, that is me. Like, that is weird. So then I loved reading the book because then I was like, you read about someone, you're like, wow, that is like I know that person, like that's why that happens, and that's why like when I talk to them I feel this way. So it was super cool to like kind of read that. I'm also just a big, I'm a big advocate for self-education.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always constantly reading health books, and I read one not long ago. I reread, actually, it's called Real Food for Pregnancy, because my sister just had a baby and she was going through, my best friends are pregnant, so I was like kind of going through these things, and love to be able to spread that a little bit. And so I'm definitely, it's reading the past 2 years has become like a thing that I definitely didn't do. And in the past 2 years, I've tried to make it more of a thing that's in my life. I think it's just really good to educate myself, and also to kind of keeps the brain, with it. And so for sure.
Very cool. So, what would you tell like a brand new person getting into CrossFit? Like, they want to go to the games. What would you tell them, like, what to expect throughout the whole journey of trying to make it to the games?
There's going to be a lot of ups and downs that I think, I think that the biggest thing that you can do is, and it's so hard to not do it because you're in the space, and when you're in that space, but when you step outside of it and kind of look at it, is that you just can't stress the small things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's gonna be so many of them, especially now with so much of it being online. There's gonna be workouts that you think you crush, but then all of a sudden you get crushed in them. There's gonna be, and there's just a lot of things that are gonna happen. I think that you can't sweat the small things. You can't take it too seriously. At the end of the day, I always tell myself, like, I am so blessed to be able to wake up and to be able to work out. Like it's something that I should not take for granted. And sometimes I had to pull myself out and be like, Cody, what the hell? Like, stop. Like, you're being a friggin' like spoiled little brat about, you did bad in this workout, where, some people would kill just to be in the position that I'm in, and I need to be able to think of it that way. So I think it's just taking everything in perspective and learning that, like, you might make it to the games your first try, then the next year you might not, but it's a journey. I mean, everyone has a story, it's part of it. The craziest thing about CrossFit is there's no guarantees. You're not signing a 4-year contract for this much. You're probably not making the most money. Like, it's purely off love of the sport, and it's such a great sport. So it's understanding the process, learning the process, and taking every little thing as a learning curve, and being able to turn that into, like, positive at the end of the day. Because I think the people that learn to turn those into positive and turn that into good energy to be able to train harder and go faster, and like, turn it on when they need to turn it on, like, those are ones at the end of the day that you hear about.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So let's just say, your CrossFit, experience is over, okay? And so,
Yep.
what do you want to have people know you, as pretty much as a CrossFit athlete, or even a
As a
person?
cross, I hope they'd go hand in hand. I want to be known as someone with like loyalty, integrity, and I want to be known as a good person. Someone that, kind of love your neighbor type. I've always gone for treat others like you want to be treated. And I think I've done that in the CrossFit space as well. And I think that's partially why, I always believed in, me still coaching and giving back. And because most of the people that are coaching are the same people that were texting me when I was day 3 at the games, and they're saying keep going, you're doing so well. And they're cheering me on, or they're buying fundraising t-shirts to help me get to regionals. And I would never want someone to, think that I took that for granted or didn't appreciate any of that stuff. And I want to be known as someone that is a loyal person, and someone that is also a friend. I think that's the biggest thing in CrossFit, that I met so many people that now I'm so close to, and I'm so thankful for, that I want to be known not first as a competitor, but as a friend. I never want someone to have a, obviously I wanted to win every time I was out there. That's the point where we're out there, but I want to beat someone on their best day. I never want anything to happen to anyone for me to have an advantage of anything. I want people to know that, and people to be yeah, that's my friend, but also someone that I compete with. So, that's just kind of my life too. I live my life that way. I think that we're put on this earth not to judge or not to anything like that, but to, treat people with love. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So where can people reach out to you if they have any questions with fitness wise, or, asking questions about anything pretty much?
Probably my Instagram. I definitely try to scroll through and, the DMs once in a while, and, all those questions, I definitely try to answer them as much as I can. I think that's the best way. I think with some other things on my Instagram, there's also an email, whatnot, they can reach out to. That's probably the best place to find me, but just the place to reach me. But yeah, definitely. I definitely try to get back to as many people I can, because I know that sometimes when it comes to some questions, I've definitely been in the place where I've asked them, and it was really nice to get a response back. So I always try to be like, people, I can't catch all of them. But I definitely try to take the time to reach back and, answer it the best that I can.
Very cool. So little background with me emailing you. So I saw the email link, and I'm like, okay, is this Instagram got hacked or something like that? Because it was a long email account name. And so then all of a sudden someone reached out to me, and I was like, wait a second, is this a joke? Is this really
No. That's Nora. So Nora works in the UK, and she works as a manager or whatnot. I hate to use that word, because Nora is also one of my good friends, and she is wonderful. But no, she definitely takes in some of the emails and helps me kind of filter out some of the things, and relates back to me what's going on, and talks to people that way, and helps just set things up for me and whatnot. She's wonderful. She's great. You can definitely reach out if there's something to try to get me involved with or whatnot. She definitely handles that kind of side for me. And she's, like I said, she's wonderful. She's super nice. She contacted me right away, and I was like, yeah, definitely. Let's do it. So that's the email part, the DMs and whatnot. I handle all that stuff. So they can reach out there, and I can definitely try to, hopefully I see it and whatnot.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing the podcast with me. I really do appreciate, you taking the time just to, talk about your experience in life and CrossFit. So, and thank you very much.
Of course. I appreciate you having me on. And once again, man, I just want to say it's friggin' hearing your story is, it's just one of those things where I think that what you're doing is, you're doing your part, and it's super cool to see. You're impacting a lot of people, and I'm very thankful for you to have me on this podcast, and it's been very fun. You're great at doing it. You ask great questions, and it's cool to see. So congrats on this, and it's freaking awesome. Thanks man.
I appreciate it. It's been a long process getting to this level. So
yeah, I can imagine, and but you definitely deserve to be here. So
appreciate
awesome
it.
Job.
All right, thanks, man.
Of course.